In the coming months and years, a lot of you would be happy that Trump actually revoked your legal status. What is coming upon this world, you will not be able to handle it. You would be glad that you're not in the United States of America. How many of you have ever heard about the Euroclydon win? I'm not sure how many of you ever heard about it. I'm going to do a video with it. You'll be happy to be back home in the Caribbean, or wherever you are from in the world. But every man Jack must return to his place. You understand? But for now, the US is revoking the legal status for 500,000 immigrants. Not just people who are illegal, legal status of 500,000 immigrants, including Caribbean nationals. And I said before, I hope when Marco Rubio comes to the Caribbean, that the leaders in the Caribbean don't allow him to just dictate to them what America wants, but they must also dictate to him and tell him what is going on, what time it is. Our leaders talk big, and then after about 2 weeks, they back down.
Late Friday, the Trump administration announced it was revoking the legal status of more than 500,000 immigrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela who came to the U.S. legally under a parole status. The Biden-era program, known as CHNV, allowed the immigrants to live in the U.S. through sponsorships by U.S. citizens and permanent residents.
In the next 30 days, their work permits and deportation protections will be lapsed and terminated by the Department of Homeland Security, which is warning that if these people do not voluntarily depart the country, John, they will be found, arrested, and deported from the country.
What's happening now with this whole issue of the revocation? The Department of Homeland Security on Friday said it will revoke the legal protections for hundreds of thousands of Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans, setting them up for potential deportation in about a month. The order applies to about 532,000, that's over 500,000 people from 4 countries who came to the United States since October 2022. This is what is happening, and the U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said they will lose their legal status on April 24th, or 30 days after the publication of the notice in the Federal Register. Now, the new policy impacts people who are already in the U.S. and who came under the humanitarian parole program. It follows the earlier Trump administration decision to end what is called broad abuse of the humanitarian parole, a long-standing legal tool presidents have used to allow people from countries where there's war, political instability, to enter and temporarily live in the U.S. But you know what's funny about all of this? Is that if you look at the countries that they're rolling back this for, legal status protections, are countries which America has put sanctions on, and which America continues to put more sanctions on. Cuba. Haiti's been stifled. They can't get anything done. Has to pay France every month just because they wanted an independence. Could you believe that? Venezuela. Nicaragua. So you ask yourself, what is it all about? But like I said to you, you will be happy in the coming months and years that the Trump administration actually told you to get out of their land. Trust me, when I finish with that program, it's called the Euroclydon win, you would understand what is happening. During his campaign, Trump promised to deport millions of people who are in the U.S. illegally. And as president, he has been also ending legal pathways for immigrants to come to the U.S. and to stay. Well, of course, there are people with green cards now who are losing their residency as well. DHS says parolees without a lawful basis to stay in the U.S. must depart before their parole termination date. Parole is inherently temporary, and parole alone is not an underlying basis for obtaining any immigration status. Before the new order, the beneficiaries of the program could stay in the U.S. until their parole expires. Although the administration had stopped processing the applications for asylum, visas, and other requests that might allow them to remain longer, the administration decision has already been challenged in federal courts. Of course, they have a right to do that if they wish. They have a right to do that. A group of American citizens and immigrants sued the Trump administration for ending humanitarian parole and are seeking to reinstate the program for the 4 nationalities. Lawyers and activists raised their voices to denounce the government's decision. Friday's action is going to cause needless chaos and heartbreak for families and communities across the country, said Karen Tumlin, founder and director of Justice Action Center, one of the organizations that filed the lawsuit at the end of February. She called it reckless, cruel, and counterproductive. The Biden administration allowed up to 30,000 people per month from 4 countries to come to the United States for 2 years with eligibility to work. It's persuaded Mexico to take back the same number from those countries because the US could deport few, if any, to their homes. Cuba generally accepted about one deportation flight a month, while Venezuela and Nicaragua refused to take any. All three are US adversaries. Listen to me. This is bad in one ways and good for other people in another way. I mean, if you're coming from a country where US has placed sanctions, they very well should take care of you and help you. But on the other hand, I think this is a learning curve for all of us in the Caribbean where we should return, build our nation, become self-reliant. And I think in the end, a lot of us will be happy for that. We'll be happy for that. Trust me. But you can leave your comments in the section below.